In this video, we're going to go over the hammer fist strike. A hammer fist strike is a really useful tool. It allows you to strike with the padded part on the side of your hand. We like to say hit hard stuff with squishy stuff and squishy stuff with hard stuff. So if I'm striking up here to the face, there's a lot of bone there. So instead of striking with my knuckles, particularly if you don't do a lot of knuckle conditioning, you may want to strike with the squishy stuff on the side of your hand. Okay, so this is the abductor for the pinky, and we're going to use that muscle. When you make your hand position for this strike, you want to make sure you're making a great fist. So you want to stick your fingers together, you want to curl them down nice and tight, as tightly as you can, so that it's like a snail rolled up into its shell. Then your thumb is going to wrap around the small joints of the fingers so that the large joints and large bones of the fingers are facing forward. Now, you're going to take your hand and you're going to squeeze your pinky. This is a super important secret here. If you leave your pinky loose, then this muscle is really squishy. Let me come up on the camera so you can see that. If I leave my pinky loose, then you're going to be really squishy here. Instead, you want to squish that pinky as tightly as you can, and that makes that muscle very hard, and that's what we're looking for, okay? Because that's going to be our striking surface. From the pinky bone down, from the pinky knuckle here down to the wrist bone is what we're looking for on striking surface. Now, when I think about striking, I want to think about one of two angles. Either I'm going to have a downward strike where my elbow comes up. In this particular case, I'm using my rear hand, and it comes down maybe into the nose, maybe into the back of the head here, depending on your opponent's angle, maybe even down into the collarbone, boom. But I'm lifting the arm and I'm lifting my body. So anytime I want to strike with power, I want to allow my mass to transfer into the target. So when I come up for the strike, I'm going to lift up on my toes slightly, and as I come down, my heels drop and my arm goes down. I'll back the camera up in just a minute so that you can see that. But the idea here being that I'm lifting my body and then dropping down. Now I don't want to drop way down, okay? But I want to drop a little bit to allow my body weight to drive through. Super important here, I don't want my elbow to come out to the side because that leaves me unprotected, and it also makes the strike somewhat inefficient. Instead, I want to come up close to my body and drive down. If I bring it way around here, it's very slow, very easy to block, and it doesn't have as much efficiency to it. Remember that in martial arts, we're looking for the most efficient path to apply power to the target. So you can either use front hand or back hand. If you're a more advanced student, you can use that front hand. For the beginner students, we want you to use that rear hand so you really get the hip to rotate into the strike, okay, as you come through. Now, you can also strike horizontally with this. So say I want to use my front hand here, I may pull it across and then strike this way. I can strike into the body with this, I can strike into the jawline, right behind the ear. There's a lot of different targeting areas for this, but it's a horizontal version of the exact same strike. The only difference here is that I do want to slightly load my hips and then unload them as I'm pushing through the strike so that I get good follow through. Notice that my head is not turning away from the strike to follow my fist, but it's maintaining a target lock on whatever I'm striking. So if I'm going to strike right here behind his ear, my head stops even though the rest of my body follows through. Boom. I don't want to swing my head. I want to keep my head lined up on my target. All right, I'm going to back the camera up so you guys can see the footwork on this. Okay, so when I'm striking Mr. Bob here, I want to think, if I'm striking downward, I want to think about dropping my body weight into the strike. So I'm here, I lift, my elbow comes up, but not out, up, and then I'm up on my toes slightly. Now I'm over exaggerating that a little bit. You don't want to be way up here on your tiptoes. You just want to come up a little bit on the toes. Now, as I come down, the hip of the striking side rotates forward to get that rotational energy, but then both my feet set down to the floor and my knees bend as I strike down and through, up, down, up, down. Bend those knees. Now, don't go so far that you're leaning forward. It's just a little bit of a bend as you come down. When you do that, you're going to have great follow through. When you do your lateral hammer fist strike, you're turning the hips. I'm over exaggerating this, so don't over exaggerate it, but you want to turn the hips as you chamber and then let them unwind as you strike. A little bit of a turn and then pop those hips around with the strike. Notice the pivot on the back foot. You can leave that back foot locked to the ground, especially if you're striking kind of outward with this. You won't be able to push, but if you're doing rotational stuff, you want to make sure that you can allow that foot to pivot. Otherwise, you lose your follow through. All right, there's your footwork. Hope you guys work on that at home. Be careful, don't try this on anything hard.